Okay. Hello. So, last time that I was here, I spoke with Karen, who founded the Radish Ranch, and she explained to us a great dealing of rad and kids with attachment disturbance or disruptions, which was really wonderful. And then I decided it would be great to talk to other team members of Camp Attach. So, because there's so much more to Camp Attach than just Karen. So today I have here with me Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hey,
Thanks for being here today.
yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Okay. So before we get too like deep into more of your story, if someone came up to you and was like, "Hey, I heard you're part of Camp Attach. What is Camp Attach?" How would you answer that question?
Yeah, no, I answer that quite a bit, and maybe I'm not the best at describing it, but I think for me, Camp Attach is a place where parents get empowered to really take care of their kids in a way that will grow their family and strengthen them when they've had a rough time trying to figure out how there's just been a lot of chaos in the home. There's been a lot of chaos in the home. There's been a lot of things that are just not respectful to the parents, and so we empower those families to come out stronger and make great decisions for their kids. They're probably already making great decisions for their kids, but we we help define the path, define a path, and help them understand a little bit about what um, our kids who have faced trauma and even our families are going through um, as a result of hard things that have happened in the past. I don't know. That might give us a start, and we have lots of fun. So, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's good. I know when Karen and I talked about it because people ask me and I have a hard time describing what camp is. So it's like I feel like you have to experience it. but
yeah,
but it's good. So, and then you're one of the members. Karen was saying that they launched this new kind of like evolved program called Camp Attach, and you're one of the professional team members. So, what is your role uh, when it comes to Camp Attach as part of the team?
yeah. No, I do a couple different things. I am I try to take care of the kids who are attached, the kids who have connections with their parents, who are. I try to take care of the kids who are respectful and responsible and are fun to be around, and let them know that they're not alone, and let them know that they have a voice, and really just yeah, just really give them a place to be. Kids sometimes, especially when there's so much chaos at home, these kids who are doing the right things just tend to disappear, um, and I don't want that to happen to them because for lots of reasons. But then I also just bring I do a lot of the announcements, a lot of the fun, just try to keep people going in the right direction. I, as a parent who has two rad kids, as a parent who has two rad kids, I can identify with the parents a little bit and give them some coaching on what that means, what that looks like, and the practicality of what we're saying. Uh, yeah, the practicality of what it's going to look like at home. So I do some team building and some. I want to make sure that the points we're getting across that we do every day in training gets across to the parents as well. And so I spend some time with the parents every day, just making sure that they understand what was being talked about, that they have a plan to bring it home, and really just am there to to make it make sense. So for the parents and to take care of the blues, and then I do a lot of just having fun with the staff too, because boy, do we get great staff there. Staff that cares about people, and they so we just go around making sure that they're okay, and but we get great staff, and though I don't know, those are most of my roles. We do some other stuff with planning and things like that, but that's yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, and I've witnessed that firsthand. That I was pretty excited when Karen was telling me about the team because you each have different gifts. And Paul, I mean, I am generally just working in the intervention room or with kids, and I've only been to 2 camps. So, but I see like even just as the staff, like I know that you must be encouraging the parents because I feel encouraged. There's a gift of encouragement, like a charism of encouragement that you have in giving the staff and like filling us up and keeping us um yeah, keeping us on track, but it's also just like deeply encouraged. I feel valued and appreciated, and I know that the parents probably feel that as well, which is really just super important.
Well, we
So
get great parents too. I mean, and that's
yeah.
one of the things we do at camp is that we remind them that they're great parents. You know, we forget that. I mean, these parents are going through chaos at home, and they don't want chaos at home. Nobody wants that chaos at home. And they're looking for answers, and they're seeking answers, and that's the first step in being a great parent. Is that, you know what, I've got a problem here, and I'm going to look for something to solve it. And so we have great parents that come in,
Mhm.
and boy, do they just need reminding of that. Boy, do they need reminding of that, and to know that they're believed. And um, I know that. I know that when I came in to camp for the first time with my kids and experienced it, I didn't know that. I thought I did, but I didn't know that, and I was just beat up and beat down. And so we have great parents, we have great staff, we have great volunteers, and man, just reminding them that that they're doing the right stuff is boy, it's really powerful. And you watch the parents just grow in confidence throughout the week, and yeah, I love our parents so much. So yeah,
So I'm assuming that, when you look at your life today and where you're at, that you probably didn't, when you envisioned your life in the future, I'm sure this wasn't necessarily what you envisioned, that you were going to be part of a camp and working with maybe difficult children or parenting. I don't want to say, I don't know what the word to call some of these kids that are struggling. um, so how did you even get involved? Like, what was your
yeah,
introduction?
yeah. No, well, we adopted two boys at 9 and 10 years old, and we were doing everything we could. We were doing lots of right things. And one day we were trying to figure out what was going on. We were looking for all these different diagnoses and things so that would give us a strategy about what was happening. And for whatever reason, one day I looked at Kelly, and that's my wife, and I just said, kids cannot be this evil.
Mm,
And that triggered something, and it got us on the right search that helped us find Camp Attached down in Florida. And luckily for us, it was COVID. And so Camp Attached got postponed by a couple months so that we could go. And we had an absolute disaster getting down there. But it changed the way that I walked. It changed the way that my
mm,
family walked. It it made us realize that we were missing our other kids. Like we had put so much time and energy into the two boys that we missed our other three kids in a lot of ways, and they were yeah, we had just missed it. It wasn't like we were doing anything wrong, but we weren't just going quite the right direction. And so yeah, and so as a result of Camp Attach, I mean, we came in having to we still had to make hard decisions and what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. Uh, but it kind of empowered us and gave our family the strength um, to do it. And I have a certain set of skills that where I am good at leading camps. I am good at bringing people together, and I saw the need for that, and so
yeah.
I just began to ask and say, "Hey, can I help with this?" And so they gave me a little bit of time to do some team building with the parents, and then they gave me. And then after they saw the difference that it made in the parents about them just having fun and laughing, and just allowing them to be a little bit more real with one another. Then they gave me a little bit more time, and then they said, "Hey, can you also take care of the healthy kids and make sure that they have a ball at camp?" And so it just kind of grew from there until it was, you know what, this just, hey, let's look at some of the curriculum stuff that we're doing. Let's look at some of the stuff that we're making for us to make sure that this is the message we want to be sent across. And so it just kept on growing from me being a parent and experiencing it to I have a certain set of skills. I have a certain I have the ability just to make groups work together and to laugh while doing it and to really be more effective as a result of that. Um, and so I was like, all right, this is where God's calling me to serve a little bit, and so that's what. So I'm excited to still be serving now, and yeah, and watching the difference it makes in families.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was your, what led you and your wife to discern adopting in the first place?
We, I think we had always been wanting to adopt when we were. That was kind of part of it. My wife was when we first adopted our youngest child, who was not who does not have any is not red diagnosed. She's great and very well connected, and is most of the time uh, respectful, responsible, fun to be around. Uh, Today we had a little bit of an issue with too short of shorts, but that's going to school. But that's a different story. But and that was when we adopted her. I mean, just happy, ready to go along. And we when we came about a couple several years later, and we were like, all right, we're going to adopt a little bit older kids. We have a big house. We have room to love. We have time. Or we kind of had time, and that was kind of where we're at. My wife and I talked about it, and it was just we knew we weren't going to have any more. We didn't we didn't necessarily want any more biological kids. And we were like, all right, we can give back, and that's kind of what led us to adopting again. So we adopted a sibling set of two boys, and yeah, and and a different adventure of life began.
Yes, and what were you doing at the time? Like, I don't know what you do when you're not at Camp Attach. Like,
So at that time, my wife was in when we adopted our youngest, we were in med school, and then when we adopted our the other two, we were Kelly had started a practice because we were in med school and doing some of that stuff. I had been primarily a stay-at-home dad. I was, but I also did do consulting on the side, and I still do consulting. Basically, I make meetings like kind of like what I do at camp a lot of times, but just I make meetings run better. They're more effective and more they're more fun, and people are engaged. And really, when you have an important meeting and you need some people to collaborate or you need to get ideas out, um, people businesses all kinds of people, church groups, people, businesses will call me and say, hey, can you help us make sure we get this important point across, or we're really looking for feedback on this, and how can we do that? And so they call me up, and we set up a plan, and either I go run the meeting or they'll run the meeting. And it's yeah, it's funner, and everybody's engaged, and all of a sudden collaboration happens where you thought it might not be possible for people to collaborate. And so that's what I do. And at that time when I was doing that, I was doing a little bit of that, and then I was coaching when we adopted the two boys. I was coaching soccer at a school, and just getting kids to activities. And um, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing for a while now. So
well, that's wonderful. I'm thinking about, so one of the people of the church, that my mom's church, they're a family that just has fostered and adopted their children. They have 5 children, and he is pretty much a stay-home dad. The mom is a teacher and she runs a camp, and she's like, they're both fantastic people, but he like is a superstar at home. And I think there's a bit of a like there's a humility that comes with him and that comes with you too, that has to do with like maybe because it's like stereotypical for the guy to be working and the lady to be at home. I don't know. But at the same time, your wife's also calling and giftedness in the medical practice has given you the freedom to, I'm assuming, to be able to be available to your children and available to things like habitat. Is that true?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we've been blessed with that. And my wife is great, and she works really hard, and she really serves the community in ways that I cannot serve the community because I'm just not a OBGYN. And and so she really has a huge heart for women, and helping them be strong enough to be great moms, because and she knows that that has a uh, man, she has a that has a powerful effect on the community. And so and just and that allows me a little bit to go to to have the freedom to go to camp attach, and but also to be making sure our kids are home, because OBGYN schedule is not a typical schedule. And so babies don't come like just whenever she feels like it. Today I'd like to have three, to deliver 3
Yeah.
babies.
It's not on a 9 to 5 schedule of having
Right.
children.
So
Oh, that's good. And then so the other thing is that, like you say, your wife is encouraging people about being great moms. So one thing that I've witnessed working with kids with either whether they actually have an official RAD diagnosis or they're just have these symptoms that are where they're just totally reactive to attaching to you. I I was realizing how I think more deeply like experience, like we talk about like the breakdown of the family, and how I don't know if you've heard that, if the crisis of the breakdown of the family. This is a big topic in I say I in the churches. It's a little bit in a big topic in it's a big topic in the Catholic Church. It may be a big topic in other churches too. I was watching. I don't know if you're familiar with Jordan Peterson at all. Yeah, I mention his name and people will either feel that's terrible or they'll feel great about him. But regardless, he was interviewing. They're making a movie about a small, I think it's a Baptist church. I don't want to say that because I don't actually know, but a small church in Texas in a Black community where they started fostering and adopting, and then they took in like 100 kids or something as a community. So, but it was the pastor's wife who was like, I feel really called to foster adopt. And then the pastor started preaching on it, and the whole community worked together. And one thing that Jordan Peterson said as like as used to be a clinician or whatever, and working with people who are really struggling or have lots of trauma background, he's like, people run into these situations as, with like great zeal, but they don't know what they're getting themselves into. So did you feel like that was a bit of your, like, I have a big open heart, and then all of a sudden you didn't know what you were getting yourself into? I don't know necessarily if that's a bad thing, because I don't know if you would have gotten into it at all, but what did you feel was the
yeah, no, I love adoption. I think that adoption is very powerful. Adoption has still turned into kind of a business, and in a lot of different areas. And so there is a mandate to get the kids, not a mandate, I don't know what the right word would be, but to get the kids out. Whether they to get the kids out of the situation that they are in, whether that's in foster care or wherever it is. And so so a lot of times they don't, the adoption agencies or the state or whoever doesn't give you all the information that you need to make wise decisions about the kids. Um,
Mhm.
and as a result of not having that information, you're going in not able to protect your family or to take care of those kids in the way that they need, because they just don't give you all the information. And so um, uh, and so even with the huge heart of zeal, and you're going in, and if you haven't believed most of the information, that it helps to make better decisions. And so uh, I, I'm not saying that I wouldn't have made mistakes in what I needed to do and how I needed to do it, but I several of the mistakes that have happened in our household would not have been made if we knew more of the conditions and more of the backstory about what our kids had gone through and had done, instead of it being, no, just need a stable home and they'll be fine. And
Mhm.
so, so, yeah, so it is easy to rush in with this big heart. And then, I mean, the other thing with that for us, and I think it runs true of a lot of our parents that we work with, is that then once we adopt, the resources that are available to us just disappear. I mean, they just go away. And so we are trying to do things, or to trying to find ways to uh, make make our families work. Uh, and there's help out there, but there's somewhere, but it's almost impossible to find. And whether it's in your county, or whether it's affordable, or or even a lot of times the things that are available to help are so full that you can't get in, or um, they are going to take the least sick kids they possibly can, or the least problematic kids as they possibly can, and as a result, your kids don't qualify because they're
Mhm.
and so all those things kind of come into place. And I think there is something to um, parents rushing in with a huge heart, um, but I also know that and when given the true and accurate information, most parents are going to make good decisions and great decisions for their families. And so it's not going to be easy. I mean, like having a baby, no matter what. I mean, each baby is different. Your life is going to change. It's not going to be the um, same thing. And if you're expecting that it's going to be all roses and no diapers, then you're going to be you're going to have to change no matter what. But yeah, but I'm not convinced that we do a great job, especially with kids that are not like at birth adoptions, and
Yeah.
even then, communicating with the families what they need to know to make a good decision for them to uh, raise these kids to be what God's called them to be.
Yeah, and I know up here in Canada, you can adopt. It's getting difficult just because of like political issues. It has a lot to do with the majority of the kids in the system are Indigenous, and the ways that we've treated them in the past. So they're hesitant to like put them into, especially like white families or families that aren't Indigenous, and there's just not a lot of adoptive families that are. Um, And the other thing, like you say about the information, it makes sense because a lot of the people that I know who have a desire for this to either adopt, to do foster care, whatever, aren't given information. I mean, part of it is that there's not enough social workers. There's not like there's it's a complex issue. But and then at the end of the day, if something does go wrong, the fault is usually put on the foster parents or the adoptive parents if it is by the system, and which is just too bad because we're just like they come in and they're like, oh, I didn't expect it to be like that, um and didn't really know. So if you were going to encourage a parent who finds themselves in a situation where they were like, this isn't what I want, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, not that they were like totally blind and thought it was going to be beautiful, but I mean, you've worked with you've had some difficult children. You've known parents with difficult children. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what I just said is that, yeah, and here's where we're at. The first thing we got to figure out is, where are you at? What is the what is the spot that you're at, and then where do you want them to go? Like, uh, so I got my three non rad kids, my three attached kids. It is not hard to imagine college and a future for them. And a huge, and it was a weird change when all of a sudden, okay, we are hoping that one of our kids doesn't end up homeless, or that maybe he won't be in jail. And so our expectations change a little bit, and even
Yes.
the expectations on what we need to do to make it work. A lot of the issues is like, for me, is that we have to see the trauma that our kids have gone through, and even the trauma that our kids have caused, no matter which side of that you're on, is
Mhm.
is where we're at. And if our kid had a trauma where he lost an arm, wouldn't then begin to expect him to be writing with both hands. He would learn to write with his left hand, or he would learn to write with his right hand. But we're not going to then ask him to write with his offhand when he has the ability to do that. We would, if our kid was in a wheelchair, we would build ramps for whatever that would be. And we just, a lot of our kids with all these diagnoses and things like that, need that support, need those things, and they're not some, they can turn into physical things, but they are not necessarily um, physical things, and they are things that we are going to have to maintain for a long time in order for them to figure out what they need and how they need to survive. And just knowing and treating that, hey, I know this is not what you signed up for, but here's where we're at now. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? And what 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 how do you want to feel as a parent? Um how do you want to grow? Because I know, especially our kids that are coming to camp, you're not here because you want to abandon your kids. um but where's the safest place for them? And there are all levels of that, like, what can you do, what are you able to do, how are you taking care of your other kids? All those things come into play, and so that's a complex issue of, but hey, I know you, mom and dad, are going to make a great decision, no matter what your decision. I know that you can do it. I know that you can do. I know you're beat down and you're tired right now, but I know that you can make the decisions that will be best for your family, and we can figure this out. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think one of the things is too that really, at Camp Attach, we know a lot of our parents come in where they've been abused by their kids,
Yeah.
whether that's a 3-year old, whether that's an 18-year old. They have been abused, sometimes physically, often physically. But for us just to say to a parent who's been abused, we believe you, um,
Mm.
that is, and we do, we believe in
Yeah.
you, and that you're not doing horrible things. That is a huge statement, and let's start there. That we believe you, and you don't have to make up extra stories. You don't have to prove it. If you're telling me that your kid is dealing with this, I don't know your kid. I believe what you're trying to say. I believe you as a parent, and you're going to be looking out for your kid better than I ever could. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I just think the belief, yeah, because I mean, I haven't been a parent of any children, but I have worked with a couple really difficult kids and have experienced, uh, whether it's physically being hit or stuff like that. And you're just like, it's a little bit mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
when
then they come in, what did you do to be hit? Well,
yeah, and they're like,
you know, told him to wipe off the table like he does every night, and all the and I don't. That's what happened, and they're like, "Oh no, there must have been something more. There might have, but I'm telling you what I did, and we believe that, and we come in and we believe you, and we I don't know how many parents come to me and talk just about so many, probably 90% of our kids that come about how they have been ostracized. I don't know.
Mm,
They've been set apart from their church. They've been told by their parents. They've been told by all these other things how they're doing things wrong, how they're abusing their kids. And these are parents who came in, like you just said earlier, like they want to love and they want these kids to have a better chance. And if they've been able to adopt, they've already been proved by the state that we're good enough people to do this. Um, and and now we're telling them, one, we don't have any resources for you, and two, what, why would you, just questioning them and accusing them of things, and that, boy, that makes life hard for a lot of these parents who are already going through battles when their friends and family um, have when it feels like their friends and family have and their church have turned their back on them. And so when we tell them we believe them, it begins to help create a community where people understand each other. So
yeah, and I feel like the bigger and more uh it's funny, I'm always watching my words. I guess I get concerned about not being politically correct. But, and with difficult children, it makes me think about so why God designed um marriage, why he designed family life, why he designed how kids come into the world anyway. And then when we step out of that design. I mean, even in the design, we have I have wounds and brokenness, and I come from a family with a mom and a dad, and you know, there's 7 of us and it's the same parents and whatever, and it's more stable. But I can't imagine coming from a situation where you've either been abused or neglected or hurt or whatever trauma that you have. Um, and then the kids are suffering the consequences of that. Right? But how do we and then our desire and then we're left to pick up the pieces, and that's a lot of what the adoptive parents are doing, and then they pick up all these broken pieces. But how do you feel like if you were going to encourage people to uh and not necessarily just adopt and part of rebuilding the society of the family. Like for me, I really do feel like God is calling me to work with kids. I don't know kids who have experienced the suffering of trauma or the breakdown of the family or whatever, however you want to word that. But then I also know it's important. Part of building that too is also people actually taking seriously, like, I'm going to get married and I'm going to have children and I'm going to um, prioritize, what's the word? Family life. And that makes sense. And being wise in our choices that we make, and we're not, and kids are valuable and important. I'm trying to think about how I'm asking this question. But when you think about the family and what you see, and then God's original design, how do you feel like that has also taught you about, just because the family is also an image of that's supposed to point us to our relationship with God. I mean, God uses a whole bunch of images, but how do you feel like that has helped you in your own woundedness? I know, like for me, I feel like parts of me don't trust God, just like the kids don't trust us. What does that witness to you about your relationship with the Lord?
yeah. Yeah, well, and one of the things I'd like to, just as I go on with this, is that just the other day I was talking to a parent who biological kids. The first one came out and came out like I don't have all the facts straight, and you don't know this person, so it doesn't matter what my facts are. Anyway, so like it came out like a month early or something, and it had to be in the ICU for a month or so. and and I got to plug in my computer. It just told me start. Um, and uh, so as a result, the because she was in the ICU or the NICU, um, this mom has had a hard time attaching with her daughter who's now 12, and they're in
Oh.
therapy doing some stuff like that. But they miss some of those heart-to-heart connections. They miss some of those times where you're being formed, where you just get held by your mom and you just get held by your father, and the way breastfeeding works and all those things. And so when you miss some of those connections, because your life is being saved, um,
Mhm.
you still have consequences of that. And it's a I guess the question is how do you trust God in when things are so hard and when so many disasters have happened in my home. I mean, there's not that many things that you can think of that a child can do in a home that hasn't happened in my home. And there's way less than the ones with some of the people that we've worked with, and the hurt and the pain. Um, you know, I guess for me, I don't I know that God is the good shepherd.
Mhm.
I know He is leading us to greener pastures. I know that um, even through this time, all of a sudden, um, my voice, how I get to help people and get to talk to people, um, has changed. Um, would I wish all the trauma that I'd gone through on anyone? No, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But um, God is faithful. He's faithful to my my kids. He's faithful to my family, um, and I haven't. I wonder where His voice is sometimes. I wonder where His sweetness has gone, where His presence has disappeared. But then I am thankful for the moments that whether God's calling me to be a prophet or not, I don't know, but I don't really want to be a prophet because because their lives were not good. They were
No.
hard lives. Yeah, I mean, like Isaiah's the suffering servant, Jeremiah's the weeping servant, Ezekiel, or was it Ezekiel? I don't know, but
Oh,
it just and and so I don't know that I want to be a prophet. I don't know that I want to have that pain in my life, but I do know that God is my father, and He has put up with so much junk from me, um, that I am not sinless, that I am not without fault, and and I the work that the work and the patience that is taken to be um, a father to these and a father to these to the hurting, to be a family to with hurting kids in it and traumatized kids in it. Um, I I can't say that I have done less to God the Father, and He still loves me, and He's still there for me, um, and uh, and I think when I need Him most, He still shows up, and usually not early, but um, but I mean, just this last time, like just last worship a couple weeks ago, not a week, like a week ago, um, I was just reminded of just being able to uh, just that God, I can trust him, and that I need to trust him. That doesn't mean I don't do anything, but I
Yes.
do need to trust him. I do need uh, to know that whether he's gone silent for a little while or whether he is right there next to me, walking with me, um, he is he's the one in charge of my fruit, and I'm my job is just to keep planting seeds and standing strong. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's the answer I gave you. So
That's great. My question wasn't very, it was a little bit abstract and all over the place. Um, yeah. So one thing you mentioned too, earlier is about how like encouraging parents that they have to do things a little different. Like, if a kid doesn't have his arm was cut off or whatever example you used. What do you find is the difference between so what we've learned at Camp Attach and the way that the program works, which is one thing that just really striked me was like the balance between having compassion on the children and like what does real compassion look like versus like a sense of false compassion. Like even though we set up boundaries differently, we still at camp there's still like this high standard of respect and responsibility that we expect of the kids, even though it's laid out in a way that is achievable for them and recognizing that they're coming from a different background. Because I think a lot of people, at least some people that I speak to here who have either adopted children, they treat it like it's like there's nothing we can do about it. So we just have to walk on eggshells all the time and kind of coddle our kids and give in to whatever they want. So, yeah, what's the difference and why is that important?
yeah, no, I mean there are large communities where they'll say something like, well, he hit you, he didn't really hit you, it was just his brain. I was like, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, our kids, depending on the level they're at, can learn something. They can, I mean, they can know something and they can choose to um, have goals, have dreams, um, uh, and and be believed in. And to limit your kids to say that they can't learn not to blow up, I think that is a disservice to you. Now, it might be harder, it might be more difficult, but you have to define what, as a parent, what the expectations are. And abuse can never be an expectation that is not there. Like I, I do understand. I do understand that, well, this is the only way that these kids have known and ever known before. But if your goal is for your child to end up in jail or to never have a date or to, yeah, if that's what your goal is, then yeah, don't require the standards of them of what you want for them. And I, I just don't. Boy, like at Camp Attach, we believe, first of all, we believe in you as parents. We believe that you can do this, that you can do what you can do, and that we believe in you. And the second thing is we believe in your kids. We
Mhm.
believe that your kids don't have to have a scream fest every time you serve them, or every time you don't serve mashed potatoes. Well, that you're not giving me French fries and a cheeseburger today, so I'm going to just make your life. We believe that your kids don't have to do those things, and we believe that they can figure it out. Um, and there's
Mm,
different levels of that, right? I mean,
mhm.
the way that we're going to deal with a 2-year-old or someone who is has the mentality of a 2-year-old, even though they're 15, is going to be different. Uh, is going to be different than the way you deal with a 15-year-old. And so we have different activities, different things that are coming up, but we do need to have the standards that no, this abuse is not right. This is what we know you can do, and expect you to be, you know, we expect you to be fun to be around. We want to be around you. We expect you to be respectful. And we can expect those things. Because if you can throw a temper tantrum, you can also, and you can stop a temper tantrum, then you can probably stop it a little bit quicker. And um, yeah, and so we believe in these kids that they are smart enough to figure it out. And we work with them to find out what they can and cannot figure out. And usually it is vastly more than what even we expected, because they want to succeed. You know, the kids, like I said earlier, this is how we figured it out for our kids. They don't want to be evil. They don't want that. And they don't want to be trapped in life. Um, but it takes a long time to see that, to see in order to have freedom, you still have to have the standards that you need to hold. And for your kids to have standards, you need to hold them as parents. You need to hold those standards. And so I guess that's what I would say about that, was just uh, that I don't agree with that. If you're that depending on where your kid's at, if they do not have to be abusive to you. They can learn enough to not be abusive to you no matter what stage they're at.
Yes, that's awesome. And I love that you already addressed a situation with a biological child that was struggling, because uh, I was going to ask you about how you encourage somebody who has a bio child that has it doesn't seem to attach and is struggling with the same issues, even though it could be, and there's, and it could be so many things. So how would you encourage a parent with a bio child to, like, so they can have maybe, I don't know, lose the stigma of like, this shouldn't be my kid because my kid wasn't adopted or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to get to a spot, and however you do this, whether that's whoever you trust, whatever you're going to do, you have to get to a spot where you can recognize where you're really at. Where are you emotionally safe? Where is your child emotionally safe? You have to recognize what's going on. And, like you talked about Jordan Peterson, and I'm going to probably misquote him here, but don't let your kids do anything that annoy you. That's one of his,
Yeah.
yeah, and when, when you've come to that point where you realize that, you're taking care of these kids, you're doing the best for them you possibly can. And this kid is just intentionally still trying to annoy you. That's not acceptable. You want him to have a job for a long time where he's not just annoying his workmates. You want him to be able to sit down with presidents and eat dinner in a way where he is not complaining about the food, or has manners enough to know when to speak and when not to speak. I mean, where he doesn't put his feet up on the table or sit on his, you want that for your kids. And so no matter where you're at, this is your story. Okay. So this, like this one mom I was talking to, okay, this is your story. And you can't compare it to somebody else's. So your kid doesn't have the sexual abuse in his past background. So it doesn't have these things. But here's where you're at. You're telling me that your home is in more chaos than you want. And so you're going to have to be strong enough to fix that. And most of the systems, in order to, if you're not connected, most of the systems that are out there uh, aren't going to be quite right for your kids until they are more respectful, until they're more responsible, until they're fun to be around, until they're willing to do it your way, um, uh, right the first time. Then, then, then they're the, then they can't make the right decisions that are going to keep them safe and trust you to that you're doing the right thing for them. And so, um, I I'm sorry your kids are not as bad as my kids. If you want them to be as bad as your kids, my kids, that's fine. But this is where you're at, and start there,
Mm.
and don't let your kids annoy you. And for at camp, we will meet you there. We will meet you right where you want to be. But Otherwise, right here, you got to be strong enough to say, no, you're not going to annoy me. And so there, and we're going to do something about that.
Yes. Yeah. And another thing that I heard in the interview with Jordan Peterson and this pastor from this Black community, the pastor was saying that, I don't even know what the movie is called. It's being done by Angel Studios. I haven't seen it, but just witnessing the real person in his story. And he was saying that not everybody is called to adopt, but everybody is called to be a part of adoption. So if you are, say, like even a church community or your community, and how would you encourage other families to support families that are finding themselves in chaos because of either taking in children or children that are just struggling, even if they're biological children? How would you encourage communities to support families that are struggling?
Yeah. The first thing I would say right there is when someone is struggling and trying to survive, they can't reach out. They can't think about the future. They can't, I mean, they are trying to make it day to day. Maybe today we only cried 4 times. Okay, that might be their day. If we've gotten to sit through a whole church service, that's amazing. So you have to be, if you have to be the one who reaches out, and you have to continually reach out. And that's hard for a lot of people. And the truth is that many of these families have already been burned, probably
Yes.
been burned by people in your church, probably been burned by people in the community. They've been burned by their children. They've been burned by their parents. They have lost, a lot of times they have lost much of their support network. And so they're not super trustworthy. Not so they don't trust others. Don't trust others well. And so when you come in and you knew that this family is a trustworthy family, and and you believe them, and you believe the parents, and you say, all right, I'm showing up today. I'm going to clean the kitchen for you. Okay, great. You know what? I know that you're going, I mean, but the amount of, and this isn't true for everybody, but the amount of schoolwork that needed to be done after school with
Mhm.
um uh my kids that we raised from birth, and these other two, is incredible. Like they didn't understand school as well, and so now I'm full-time teacher, full-time dad, and full-time teacher of these kids, where I'm spending hours every day after school getting their homework done, while my other kid, who's in the same grade as one of them, takes 3 minutes to get it done. And and it's just just so to be there, to show up, and to believe the parents,
Yes.
who are doing the right things. Now, don't get carried away. Don't get trapped. I know there are abusive parents out there. That's not what I'm saying. And if you see things like that, you need to report those things. But for most of our parents who are in these situations, they need to be believed, and they need the time, and just start for you to be there. You don't need to be a party for the kids. You don't need to be anything like anything else like that. But you do, your presence and your belief in them will help them move mountains. I mean, they will need respite. They will need time away. They will need date nights. Holy smokes, do they need date nights where they can go out and dance together, or whatever they're doing. Uh, but but it is hard for them to believe you, and so you have to put in a little bit of time, and that's probably what you're called to do. You have to give them a spot where they feel emotionally safe with you, so that when they tell you that I'm scared of my child, you believe them. When they tell you that uh this cut came because my got crazy with a butter knife, and we're like, really, how crazy could it get? Okay, well, yeah, I mean, you know, uh, yeah. So one, be there, fight to be there, make yourself reach out. And the second thing is then believe the parents, and they'll tell you what they need. They will with their actions and stuff, but it takes a little while because most of our parents have been burned by friends, family, by you name it. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So as we wrap up here, just kind of mentioned, I didn't know if I clarified it before, but just again, what I appreciate about Paul being on the camp attached team is not just his own gifts. And you mentioned it too. It's also nice to have, though I'm thankful that Trevor is a part of it too. It's nice not just like, as I don't want to belittle women. Women are important and stuff, but it is good to have men and women on the team. It just brings it really important. I mean, there's a reason that God made us as men and women, right? It brings a lot of dynamics. And usually in these situations, like where there's caregiving or yeah, that type of thing, there is generally lots of women, which isn't a bad thing, but I'm just really thankful that you're part of that team and that Trevor is too. It's really important. And so the last question I have for you is, how much, like, is there hope? Is there hope for kids? How much success have you seen when parents actually follow the program? Obviously, there's not like 100% success or whatever, but is like, because I've heard from social workers that there's nothing you can do about rad, or there's nothing you can do about this. You just wait until they're 18 and then the system will take care of it. But yeah, is there hope, and have you seen children heal?
Yeah. Yeah. So there is hope. And there is lots of hope. I would say that the first hope is that one of the things that I think Camp Attached does for our parents, and for me more than anything else, is that uh, it just restores you, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you are strong enough to make the decisions that you need to make for your family. Um, and and it also makes you aware of some of the things that you were missing, after Camp Attach, not too far after Camp Attach, like we didn't realize how much we had missed one of our older boys. Like he was getting abused. Um, I don't think physically abused, maybe a little bit, but just mentally abused, like in a lot of different ways. And we had missed him, and he had just clammed up. I mean, he was the life of the party, and he just turned off. But because of our strength and being able to get back and saying, hey, no, this is no longer acceptable. This is what we need you to be. He's able to turn back on. He's able to have that
Mm.
safe environment, that emotional safety where he gets to be who he is, and he can bring friends over to the house, and he can, you know, dream, and he can go places, and he still helps out. He still does things better better than a lot of our adult volunteers, because he understands what's going on,
Yes.
uh, and so that, I mean, it is the hope that you can carry yourself differently, and the hope that you can have discuss you can have a normal dinner, where it is not a battle, where it is not a fight. These things are all possible. um, will my two adopted kids become doctors and lawyers? And I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that they won't, um, because but right now, for me, for one of my children, I still think it's possible that he might be able to come over for Christmas, when he's old enough. Um, and that those relationships aren't completely burned in that way. Like he might be able to come over for special events and special holidays, while another one, uh, he might be able to live down the street from us and do great at whatever he decides to do. But all of a sudden, I know that my family is safe, and there's not even a question in my mind that for these two kids that have come with so much trauma, that that their life will be better because they live with us, that they will have a closer walk and a chance to walk with God because they came lived with us. And because we held the standards for them, that they might someday um, uh, uh, that they might someday be, be more responsible, be more fun to be around. They and that happens. And so and it is possible, but it might not be your normal child. Yeah. Anyway, there is hope. There is hope, and with you being strong enough, and with uh, with you seeing a path and a journey, it really makes your kids stronger as well. So, yeah, I like it. Can't. It's not. It's not what I expected, but I think it's still. I think it's still good. I know it's still good, and so yeah, I have hope. That I guess that's what I would say about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing today. Um, do you feel like, I mean, is there anything else you want to say, or do you feel like you said it?
No, I mean, I think we're. I don't know what else to say. I think I know camp attachment made a difference in our lives, and we help you solve the problems. We help you get to the point and give you the principles to solve the problems, that so that you can stand strong and do what God's called you to do. And so, yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. I was glad that you thought of me, Sarah Jane, and boy, I look forward to seeing you at the next camp here in just a little bit. So,
Yes, that'll be awesome. Okay, thank you.